Hello and welcome. One of my favorite guests is back. Richard Leider is with me. Many of you know of him, know his work. He's the author of a best-selling book called Repacking Your Bag for the Rest of Your Life. He is also the author of The Power of Purpose, another bestseller. He's written several other books, all of which I've enjoyed, but he has a new book out now called Life Reimagined, which people are saying might be your best ever. We're going to talk about that book tonight, and one of the key ideas, which is very interesting to me, and I'm quoting from the book, Richard writes, "You are responsible for shaping your own reality." A lot of implications to think about with that. Richard has been named by Forbes magazine as one of the top 5 executive coaches in the United States. And he's the founder and chair of the Inventure Company, which is sort of the springboard for all of your work, Richard, right?
Yeah, but we call it now Inventure, the Purpose Company.
That's right.
Because purpose has been the core golden thread or theme through everything that I've written, and is 4 decades basically of research and writing and coaching on helping people discover the power of purpose in their lives.
Didn't you say that some people call you Mr. Purpose?
Yeah, one of my colleagues calls me the Pope of Purpose,
The Pope of Purpose,
which is kind of a stretch, but the point is that purpose is the core thread.
And your very first book was The Power of Purpose?
No, actually, the Inventurers was my first book.
That's right.
And which led to the Inventure Group, which is now 25 years old. And so it's been, it's a wonderful business, and I'm still as passionate or more than ever about this work.
That's saying a lot. That's wonderful. I remember once you said to me years ago that when you think of the people you've worked with, only about 15%, is what you said, maybe 10 years ago, Richard, are loving what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Would you still agree with that?
I would say, and I think the data from Gallup and many of these larger data gatherers say that 1 out of 5 people wants to get up and go to work in the morning.
So 20%.
Yeah, 15-20%. And I think that's true. This book, however, Life Reimagined, looks at people in the second half of life who are making choices to create meaning and meaningful work. And so I think those percentages will go up for that crowd.
And they're in a transition time.
Right.
Having some more choices possible. But as I was reading it, I thought, this isn't just for people who are in the last third of their life.
Right.
Because I know lots of young people who are my kids' age who are struggling with, do I want to stay in this job the rest of my life?
Right.
Do I have to?
Well, reimagining your work life, is really a life skill of the 21st century. People have to reimagine at different points in time. It's not just this current recession or period of joblessness. This is going to be for everybody in the long haul. And for people, we wrote this book because there's a longevity revolution going on. We're living 3 decades longer than we did in the early 1900s. The life expectancy in this country was age 47. Now it's in the 80s, and 85 plus is the fastest growing cohort in America. So we're going to be living as long as we worked when you look at midlife forward. Some people are having to work, and other people are wanting to work, and some will continue to retire, but that retirement factor is going way down with people wanting to do something meaningful with this 3 decades in their life.
And meaningful is the key thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, I say that there's 3 fundamentals: money, medicine, and meaning. We need money, enough, whatever that is, and everybody's an experimental one when it comes to that. Medicine is health, and you have reported and studied that for years. So if you have enough money, you need health, vitality. So if you have those 2, then what are you going to do all day? And so meaning is really that why do I get up in the morning? What do I really want? What do I care about? What am I passionate about? So it's all of those kinds of things that give us meaning in our lives, in our core, not just, you know, the happiness research is amazing these days, how much of it there is, how many books on happiness.
Right.
This book's about fulfillment.
And the concept too you hit on a lot, that time is such a valuable asset.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I mean, we all have some sense as we get older of limited time.
Right.
But in a way, then that makes the book more important. Okay, I'm not going
Yeah.
to live forever.
Right.
I might not live to be 100.
Right.
So I better
Yeah.
make some good decisions.
Yeah, the book has we call it a manifesto. If there's a longevity revolution and maybe a purpose revolution going on, or maybe evolution is a better word for it, every good revolution needs a manifesto. So we say choice, curiosity, and courage are the drivers in this new era, in this new choice which is what I've been a student of for forever, and we've talked about that many times. And people say, my teacher on choice was Viktor Frankl. I met Viktor Frankl in 1967 and took a seminar from him.
Oh my gosh!
I was fresh out of graduate school, counseling psychology, trying to figure out what to do with the rest of my life. You'd think you'd learn that in counseling, but it's all about everybody else, not yourself. So I saw on the bulletin board in my graduate school that Viktor Frankl, who I'd read, was doing a seminar in San Diego. So I went, and I spent a week, and it transformed my life forever. It really got me on this purpose path. And he basically said this, because those of your listeners who don't know, your viewers who don't know, Frankl was in 3 concentration camps.
Right. I mean,
A Viennese psychiatrist who, and he was liberated, but his whole family was killed. And he weighed 87 pounds, and he got out and he wrote one of the most important books, I believe, and the Library of Congress believes, in American history, called Man's Search for Meaning. And the essence of it is choice. Basically, he said the last of the human freedoms is choice. It's to choose what you want your next hour, your next day, your next to be about, regardless of the circumstances.
He was such a model for somehow making meaning out of a very hard existence for a while.
And so, I mean, what could be harder than that? Concentration camp. But he said, choice is the operative. If you don't believe you have a choice, then you don't. If you do believe it, then there's different ways to live that. Not always easy, but choice is the operative word. And then curiosity is what do you care about? What are you passionate about? What if the key to purpose and choice is why do you get up in the morning? Then the key to passion is what keeps you up at night. Not your worries I'm talking about, but what are the things that you're reading, studying, thinking, and I mean, you're a voracious reader and curious person, and curiosity is essential to longevity.
You know, there's also another C word in there that ties into these two concepts, clarity.
Yeah.
Because I struggle with that, and I know other people who talk about it too. If you don't have clarity, you can't make a choice.
Right.
I mean, they go together.
Yeah. Well, I agree, but my third C is, so there's choice, there's curiosity, and the third one is courage.
Right.
That's where the clarity comes in, because people say, well, what if I don't have clarity? Well, courage is about going out and exploring, and
Which probably most people have to do, right?
in order to get clear.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And some people are blessed from an early age. I knew I wanted to do this,
Right.
or I, by luck, got into something and I love it.
Yeah.
But most don't.
And in different aspects of our life, you were talking about younger people, and we were talking about that earlier. What we found, even though we wrote this for kind of the second half of life crowd, what we're finding are people in their 20s and 30s, particularly the millennials, they're really into this, are showing up at seminars or buying the book because they say, why would I wait till I'm 50 if this is wisdom that I can use now? So we're finding a very intergenerational interest in reimagining.
As I read it, I thought of several young people who I think would love to read it now that I've discovered it. One of the things, you have a chapter about being cynical, but I have to represent some of the cynics with this question, because
Sure.
money really can make it hard to follow your passion,
Absolutely.
to follow your purpose.
Right. Yeah.
I know several people who are creative and smart, and they'd love to be doing something other than what they're doing.
Right.
But they're so tied to keeping things going financially.
Right.
And how do you talk to people when they bring that up?
Well, the chapter in the book is called Get Real. And people we've interviewed hundreds of people, we've been in front of thousands of people in seminars, and so what we would hear from those people, those skeptics, get real, I'd got to pay the bills.
Do this, but
Get real, my spouse would never go for this. Get real, I don't even know what I want to do, et cetera. And so we said, basically, there's a methodology in the book. It's a simple methodology which costs nothing. And so it doesn't cost you anything to reflect, connect, explore, choose. And so if you're not willing to at least embrace the process, you don't have to make a move, but to look at what's possible, then of course we're not going to be much help. So we tried to tell stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things, and the way they did it was by going through a process, a choice process. They don't have to have therapy, they don't have to go to a seminar, they just have to have a mental model of, oh, this isn't that difficult. And out of that they tend to evolve into maybe staying with what they're doing and staying stuck, as you point out, and waiting. But time is our most precious currency. So living a postponed life is not a good idea.
And there's also the concept that you don't have to do what you love all the time to still have a lot of joy from it.
Right.
It can be an avocation.
Right.
It can be a part-time job.
Right. We call it, we say in one of the sections here, the distinctions between a job, a career, and a calling. Not everybody can find a calling that fits their gifts and their passions and their values, but they can find something in their other life. I know a story that you know, and that's I've interviewed cab drivers for many, many years. Behind every cab driver is a calling. It may not be driving a cab, maybe coaching their kids soccer, or maybe something in their church, or maybe something else that they care about, as long as they can find that thing that really lights them up. And don't postpone it till someday when I retire, or someday, because life happens. We're penciled in for a pretty short time. It happens pretty quickly, and that's what almost everybody says. I'm 70 and I still feel like I'm 18 inside. What happened? Well, chronology, you start aging when you're born. But discovery and growth and choice, those are things we have some control over.
You had an interesting diagram or couple in the book where and can you do it with your hands better than I can, but he talks about how we used to think of aging and just
It's the core, it's really the core of the book. It's the thing that really, and what it is basically this. It's like a parabola, but grow up, hit a certain point, grow old. So you grow up and then you hit midlife or retirement, and then there's kind of
it's all
decline.
downhill.
Yeah,
I mean,
all the Hallmark cards that say over the hill or whatever. Well, there's a new hill. And the new model looks like this. And by the way, the bottom is longevity, we're aging. The top of this curve is growth and discovery and learning and all of that. So the new curve goes like this: grow up and then reimagine and reimagine and reimagine till finally we're in our later years, we're looking at maybe retiring, or what we used to call true elderhood or true aging. But so many people are vital in these 3 decades. And they're looking for ways to manifest that in their lives. And so the stories in the book are really amazing. I mean, I am so inspired. And one of the Apple picked Life Reimagined to create one of their very first embedded iBooks. So you can actually buy this book, Life Reimagined, with, I think it's 15 videos
Oh, with the
And so
stories
on
of
your
the people
iPad
that are
or
in the
you,
book.
and so as you're
Oh,
reading, you
that's a
press a
fun
button
idea.
and you actually see the video of the actual
Oh, that's
person
great.
in their life doing what they, and it's very inspiring. I mean, I look at these videos all the time, and they're just ordinary people. We're not talking about. There's a couple famous people that we looked at, Emilio Estefan and Gloria Estefan, for example, who are icons in the Hispanic community, have reimagined many times, and with tragedy in their lives. We
Right, they have had some hard,
right.
that plane accident.
And where she maybe never walked again, et cetera. But so with Life Reimagined, one important piece of it is that some people are pushed by pain and others are pulled by possibility. So some people have to reimagine because of the pain. They're pushed by pain into these choice points. Other people are pulled by possibility. They're at a point where they say, what could be the rest of my life look like? What could be next? And so we're all experiments of one. We start where we are.
You know, so many people our age are retiring right now, and they're really talking, a lot of them, about, oh, I just can't wait to, you know, not have to get up in the morning and
Right.
rush to work, and every day will be a Saturday. Now, to me personally, that sounds a little boring, but
You and me both.
people are very excited about that. And what percentage of people do you think see life as, now I can do something really meaningful because I don't have to work at the
Yeah.
job I had for
Yeah.
40 years?
I think,
I mean,
you know,
we're
it's,
hoping it will become a bigger and bigger
yeah,
number, but right
yeah.
now,
yeah, I don't know. I would say that I think the preponderant majority of boomers that we've researched and talked with want a moratorium for a while, where they don't have to get up in the morning, where
Okay.
they can
a timeout.
play golf or travel or read or whatever calls them to pause after working a long time. But after about 2 years max, 18 months, pretty standard, it's like, okay, I've done that. So there's a quote in the book from E.B. White who says, I arise in the morning, torn between a desire to save the world and a desire to savor the world.
Oh, that's
This
a
makes
great
it hard
quote.
to
I
plan the
don't
day.
remember that.
Well, I think it makes it easier to plan the day because a well-lived life is about savoring and saving, not literally saving, but doing something meaningful and savoring and doing, playing golf endlessly, fishing endlessly, knitting, and whatever. At a certain point, we need a diverse portfolio. So it doesn't mean they have to go back to work all of a sudden, but they have to find something that really engages the save part.
If you think of a couple who's watching right now, and let's say one of the two is very excited about what you're saying and is like, oh yes, that's what we need to do. We need to find more purpose. We need to have more meaning. The other one is saying, oh, I just want to golf. I just want to kick back.
Yeah.
Get real.
Yeah.
How do you, with the counselor part of your mind, how do you talk to those people and help that couple who are kind of in different places?
Well, I'm sorry to say that, and I'll give you a solution, but the highest divorce rate in the country is at that age.
Is it really?
For people who get to that point
that's really
and say,
interesting.
you know, you did your job, I did my job, and now we don't even know each other. And by the way, we've got different visions of what we want. So if we're going to live another 30 years, do we want to do it together? If we can't figure it out, so there are ways to do that. But one of the ways to do it is that we feel very strongly is that isolation is fatal. Going it alone is not a bad idea. We think everyone ought to have a sounding board. And maybe your spouse is not on your sounding board, but we need people to talk to. Committed listeners, catalysts, wise elders who are 5-10 years down the path. But we need to figure it out. If we park it and don't talk about it because she can't or he can't hear it, they're doomed. They may stick it out, but it's going to be a pretty rough road.
Well, so one thing you're indirectly saying is you've got a choice. Do you want to stay with someone who is going to just want to golf the rest of your life,
Yeah.
your healthy life?
And you can figure it out. Maybe, there are parallel paths now. Maybe one of them wants to create a business and the other one doesn't. What do they do if they're inspired? Or one of them wants to go back to school and study and the other one doesn't. Well, if communication or that dream is suppressed, it's going to not work very well. It's going to make them sick, basically.
Right.
And so how can I support you to get what you want? How can you support me? Maybe it's your turn now. But the key is to have a courageous conversation, to be able to talk about it and not be, well, what if we want different things? Well, maybe we can figure out a way to get both what we want. It doesn't have to be the same.
You also talk a lot in the book about taking risks.
Right.
So this might be a risk point.
Right.
To be more independent, so one can fulfill maybe a more purposeful kind of existence, the other can kick back more.
Marriages and partnerships are definitely tested in midlife. It's an existential necessity to have these conversations, and they're not easy to have. That's why we put a methodology in the book. That's why we put stories of people to say, you're not strange. This is the new reality. Everybody's an experiment of one. And we need to figure this out if we're going to live 3 more decades or more. And not easy.
You write, and I'm out of the order here in a sense, but reflect.
Right.
And that's what you're talking about now, I guess.
Yeah.
But sometimes I think people have to, and would you agree, pull back from regular life to really reflect.
Right.
Because there's so much of regular life that's so routine. That,
well, and technology hijacks reflection.
Yeah.
We're always going somewhere, never being anywhere. And so how do we reflect?
Say that again, that's a great line. We're always going
We're always going somewhere, never being anywhere. And so reflect doesn't mean going off to a cave and meditating or doing something. You don't have to light a candle, you don't have to put on music, but it means pushing the pause button, stepping back to look at the big picture. Wisdom really is seeing the big picture and knowing what way to give things. Often what will happen is we'll get a crisis then. We'll be pushed by pain and we'll have to reflect. If that's the way it is, but pulled by possibility.
But you'd rather not have that be the driving force.
So the book has very simple reflective exercises to help people make it easy and enjoyable as opposed to ponderous and heavy.
And ARP is partnering with you with some online connections.
Yep,
Explain that.
AARP, which dropped retirement out of the word. It's now ARP, it's not retirement. They co-published the book, and they're reinventing AARP to be more relevant, and Life Reimagined is really the platform that they're building it on. And so I've been partnering with them for the last 4 years and continue to...
That's a win-win thing, isn't it?
Well, and we're talking roughly 40 million members.
And Brad Pitt now.
And many others. And so who are looking for a guidance system. AARP and this book and what I'm all about now is some sort of guidance system that'll help people do it on their own terms, not on my terms.
I'm getting the signal that we need to put up a website. So if you're wanting to learn more, which I'm guessing lots of you are, you can go to Richard's website, which is inventuregroup.com, and that'll link you to more info about the book. And we need to say, Alan Weber, your co-author, who sounds like a fun person to work with.
Well, footnote on him, during the course of writing the book together, he decided to go after his own Life Reimagined dream, and he is currently running for governor of New Mexico as we sit here.
Oh my goodness,
so let's hope
how exciting.
Yeah, it's really exciting, and he's totally into it, and it's something that he's thought about, worked towards for a long time, and writing the book was kind of the trigger for him. He was pulled by possibility.
I know he said it was a very personal thing.
Yep.
He, if you, probably some of you may have heard of him, is the co-founder of Fast
Company Magazine.
Fast Company Magazine.
Yeah, he sold it a while back, and we've been working on projects. I met him because he wrote an article about me in Fast Company.
In the magazine, okay.
And we became friends. We started to work on some projects together, and when he sold the magazine, we continued. And He used to be, by the way, the editor of the Harvard Business Review. He's got
Right.
pretty serious
So-
credentials in
So
this.
he can be governor.
I hope so.
Oh, exciting. I
Yeah.
didn't know that, of
Yeah.
course. Well, thank you so much for coming down. If there's one thing you want to end with, we've got a couple seconds, to someone who's poised to kind of think hard right now about their life, what would you leave them with, Richard?
I would say everybody's an experiment of one. Everybody has their own unique way of doing things. Be authentic. Live from the inside out. Figure that out. Things change along the way. And I would also say isolation is fatal. Don't go it alone. Experiment of one means it's all about you, but isolation means get a sounding board, talk with others, join forces, see what's going on in this movement we call Life Reimagine. There are millions of people who are going through the process right now.
As we close, I want to let you look at the book. Richard was just telling me that he fought for the colors, he fought for the design,
Yeah.
and it's a
Yeah.
catchy looking book.
Yeah.
Sorry, I meant to hold it up sooner. But Life Reimagined, Discovering Your New Life Possibilities. Very inspiring and exciting.
I was really looking forward to this, and thank you so much
you're
for a
welcome.
great conversation.
Welcome, good to see you again.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us. We'll be back again next week. Until then, have a good week.